2026, the year of the storm? Crisis, war, and pandemic. What awaits us and how to survive? 2026, a year already appearing on the radars of leaders, economists, scientists, and generals. It's not just rumor. Technical analyses, reports from multilateral organizations, and warnings from independent institutes point to a confluence of risks, financial, geopolitical, and public health, that could make 2026 a period of unprecedented global turbulence in our generation. Today, we will dissect these risks, understand how they connect, and most importantly, what you can do to prepare. Before looking at 2026, we need to understand the context of 2024-2025. The world economy emerged from the pandemic shock, but with weak and uneven growth. Trade and political tensions reignited trade barriers, and health systems and international cooperation were weakened by cuts and disagreements among major donors. These factors create a delicate base where small shocks can have far-reaching effects. Organizations such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank have already highlighted that global growth remains below what is needed and that systemic risks persist. Financial risk: why many fear a new crisis. What are the ingredients of a possible crisis in 2026? High debt and interest rates. After years of tight monetary policy to contain inflation, many countries, especially emerging markets, face high debt and high financing costs. This leaves governments and businesses vulnerable to liquidity shocks. The IMF and World Bank point to weak growth and persistent high interest rates as risk factors. Disruptions in supply chains and tariffs. The escalation of trade barriers and protectionist measures increases costs and uncertainty for global companies. Reduced trade disrupts revenues and pressures profits, which can trigger waves of sectoral bankruptcies. Recent reports link trade disputes to slowdowns in developing countries. Asset bubbles and banking vulnerabilities. In some markets, asset valuation, real estate, technology, and accumulated leverage in smaller capitalization funds and banks create points of fragility. A localized crisis can spread rapidly in an intertwined financial system. Geopolitical shocks. Sanctions, power cuts, or logistical blockades can generate immediate financial panic. Stock market crashes, flight to dollars or gold, collapse of local currencies. In short, several pieces of the puzzle are in the hands of political and economic actors, and miscalculations or escalations can trigger larger crises. Practical consequences for 2026, financial. If a crisis materializes, expect rising unemployment, inflation of basic goods, food, energy, credit restriction, difficulty for businesses and consumers to obtain loans, currency devaluation in weaker countries, fiscal austerity and cuts in public services. For a large part of the population, the shock translates into loss of income and increased insecurity, fertile ground for social
where
instability.
crises can escalate. Ongoing conflicts and tensions between major powers create multiple fronts of risk for 2026. War in Europe and its effects. The conflict in Ukraine remains a critical indicator. If the campaigns drag on or escalate, there will be a direct impact on energy, food security, and displacement. Strategic analyses show varied scenarios, including stagnation of the conflict and scenarios of escalation. U.S.-China tension and the Indo-Pacific region. Disputes over Taiwan, control of semiconductor chains, and pressure on regional actors can provoke incidents that disrupt global markets and trigger military reactions. Expanded. Geopolitical risk institutes list Sino-American rivalry as one of the topics that could most destabilize 2026. Middle East and new fronts. After waves of recent conflicts, the region is still vulnerable to new escalations between states and militias. Any new offensive could disrupt energy supply and raise global prices. Risk of regional contagion. Local conflicts tend to have chain effects. Refugee flows, trade disruption, cyber attacks on infrastructure. The combination of these effects can amplify already existing economic shocks. Public health risk, the shadow of a new pandemic. Since COVID-19, the world has improved in many aspects, but it has also regressed in others. Reports from health organizations and independent panels warn of new zoonotic agents and avian influenza, sporadic outbreaks of viruses such as H5N1 and other cases of emerging diseases show that nature continues to create threats. The World Health Organization has stressed the need for continued vigilance and investment in preparedness. Weakened funding and coordination. Studies and panels demonstrate that the global financial architecture for pandemic response is fragmented. Cuts in ODA, external aid, and a retreat of leadership from some major donors weaken the response. This means that a serious outbreak could spread further before receiving adequate coordination and resources. Intersection with economics and conflicts. A new pandemic in 2026 could coincide with economic shocks and conflicts, causing a multiplier effect. Overwhelmed hospitals, broken supply chains, and social panic. Plastic scenarios for 2026. It is not inevitable that everything will go wrong. There are gradual and extreme scenarios. Moderate scenario, weak growth, localized conflicts, controlled outbreaks with regional responses, punctual cuts in consumption and macroeconomic adjustments. Severe scenario, median high risk indicated by analysts. Financial shock triggered by sovereign default or local banking collapse, plus geopolitical escalation in at least one theater, example strategic island or peninsula, plus regional viral outbreak with high transmission capacity, a combination that would amplify a systemic crisis. Extreme scenario, less likely but possible. Global financial crisis combined with larger cross-border conflicts and failure of international coordination in the face of a pandemic, leading to a long recession, localized famine, and widespread social instability. The exact probabilities vary among agencies and analysts. The consensus, however, is that the confluence of factors increases the fragility of the global system. What is really at stake for you? In short, the risks are not just about macroeconomic numbers or military maps. They're about jobs, access to food, health services, personal security, and freedom. Even without an extreme scenario, waves of inflation, service cuts, and rising food and energy prices can push millions into poverty and trigger localized humanitarian crises. Practical conclusion, warnings, and solutions. Concrete tips. I conclude with direct messages and practical actions, short, medium, and long-term for individuals, families, and small communities. Personal finances, short-term. Maintain an emergency fund equivalent to 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. If this is not possible, prioritize 1 to 3 months and make regular contributions. Reduce high-interest debt, credit card overdraft. In times of uncertainty, variable interest rates can strain your budget. Diversify your reserves, checking account, emergency savings, more liquid assets. In countries with currency risk, keeping part of your reserves in a strong currency can be prudent. Household stock and logistics. Maintain a small rotating stock of non-perishable food for 2 to 4 weeks. Rice, beans, canned goods, essential products. Have a basic first aid kit and essential medications, not for panic, but for local resilience. Consider alternative sources of home power, power bank, flashlight, and a family communication plan in case networks become congested. Health and prevention. Keep vaccinations up to date and follow local health guidelines. During outbreaks, prioritize hygiene, ventilation of environments, and avoid crowded places as long as authorities recommend it. Stay tuned to official information, Ministry of Health, regional secretariats, and avoid misinformation. Community safety and information. Know your city or municipality's emergency plans, shelters, evacuation routes, assistance centers. Strengthen community ties. Organized neighborhoods help share resources and information in crises. Prepare digital documentation, copies of important documents in the cloud and offline. For entrepreneurs and small businesses, strengthen cash management, conservative cash flow. Diversify suppliers and evaluate critical inventory to avoid stockouts. Have a business continuity plan, essential workers, alternative sales channels. The role of authorities and society. Push for transparency and investment in public health, social safety nets, and international cooperation. Support initiatives that strengthen crisis governance. Multilateral cooperation is key to mitigating global shocks. Final message. 2026 presents real risks, not to fuel panic, but to wake us up. The global situation is more fragile and interdependent than at any recent time. Preparing prudently, strengthening community ties, and demanding public responsibility is not alarmism, it is civic prudence. If we act now with planning and solidarity, we can reduce impacts and protect lives. Stay alert, get information from reliable sources, and start today with practical measures that fit your budget and your family's needs.